Every Sunday night in the early 1970s, a young, penniless college dropout would walk 7 miles across the city of Portland. He didn't have money for a bus. He barely had money for bread, but he walked those 7 miles every single week for one specific reason: to get one good full meal at the local ISKCON Hare Krishna temple. To that young man, that free plate of food didn't just taste good. It felt like salvation. It felt like the ultimate luxury. That kid was Steve Jobs. Decades later, as a billionaire, he could have bought the entire restaurant industry. But if you asked him about the most vivid, visceral memory of food he ever had, it wasn't a Michelin-star dinner in Paris. It was the free Sunday feast at the temple when he had absolutely nothing. We are obsessed with money. We track it. We envy it. We chase it. But modern finance channels always talk about the numbers, the net worth, the assets, the portfolios. They rarely talk about the psyche. What does wealth actually do to your brain? How does your relationship with a simple cup of coffee change when you have $0 versus when you have $1 billion? Today, we aren't looking at bank accounts. We are looking at human reality. Let's go through the 7 levels of wealth and what they actually feel like. Level 1, absolute zero, the survival mind. Level 1 isn't just poverty, it's absolute zero. This is the level of homelessness, or the terrifying edge right before it. When you are at absolute zero, money stops being a tool and becomes oxygen. And when you are suffocating, you cannot think about anything else except the next breath. Psychologists have found that financial scarcity actually drops a person's effective IQ by up to 13 points. Why? Because your brain is constantly running a heavy background program. How do I survive the next 12 hours? At this level, you don't look at a city the way others do. You don't see architecture or cute cafes. You see boundaries. You see a bench you aren't allowed to sleep on. You see a bathroom you aren't allowed to use unless you buy a $5 latte you can't afford. The deepest pain of absolute zero isn't just the physical cold or the hunger. It's the invisibility. You watch thousands of people walk past you every day, and their eyes slide right over you as if you are a ghost. You begin to question your own humanity. Like young Steve Jobs walking those 7 miles, your entire world shrinks down to a singular, desperate focus: survival. Level 2, scarcity and the check engine light. Level 2 is where a massive percentage of the world lives, paycheck to paycheck. You have a roof over your head, you have food, but you have no buffer. If level 1 is suffocating, level 2 is living with a constant low-frequency hum of anxiety in the back of your skull. It's the feeling of being one bad break away from ruin. At this level, a simple orange light on your car dashboard, the check engine light, is enough to ruin your entire month. It triggers a physical reaction. Your stomach drops. Your heart rate spikes. Why? Because you realize your life is built on a house of cards. You don't buy things based on what you want. You buy them based on what you can delay. You delay the dentist visit. You delay replacing the worn-out shoes. The psychological trap of level 2 is that it creates a scarcity mindset. Even when you get a small raise, you can't enjoy it because your brain is so conditioned to wait for the other shoe to drop. You are safe for today, but tomorrow feels like a threat. Level 3, the breathing room, financial comfort. Then comes level 3, the breathing room. This is the point where you cross a magical threshold, usually aligned with what researchers call the happiness plateau of income. What does this level actually feel like? It feels like quiet. The greatest luxury of level 3 isn't what you can buy. It's what you can afford to ignore. When you go to a grocery store, you don't pull out your phone calculator to add up the items before you reach the register. You just buy the groceries. When the check engine light comes on, you don't panic. You call the mechanic, you hand them your card, and you complain about the annoyance, but not the survival. For the first time in your life, your brain shuts off the survival program. You start looking at the future. You think about retirement, hobbies, and personal growth. But level 3 has its own unique ghost, the hedonic treadmill. Now that you aren't fighting for survival, you start comparing yourself to the people in the neighborhood next to yours. The peace is real, but the temptation to climb higher is addictive. Level 4, the mirage of status, affluence. Level 4 is affluence. This is the upper middle class and the lower tiers of wealth. You drive the luxury car, your kids go to private school, and you vacation in places that look beautiful on Instagram. But here is the deep, dark secret of level 4 that no one admits. It feels like golden handcuffs. At this level, your wealth is often performance art. You have achieved high status, but status is an expensive beast to feed. You are earning $500,000 a year, but you are spending $450,000 to maintain the image of someone who earns $500,000 a year. The feeling here isn't peace, it's pressure. You cannot quit your high-stress corporate job because your entire life requires a massive, continuous influx of cash. You look wealthy to the outside world, but inside, you feel like a hamster running on a very expensive, gold-plated wheel. You realize that you don't own your possessions. Your possessions own you. Level 5, True Freedom, the millionaire next door. Level 5 is where true wealth actually begins. It's what we call time freedom. Ironically, the people at level 5 often look poorer than the people at level 4. They drive a well-maintained 5-year-old Japanese SUV. They wear unbranded clothing. They don't care about status because they have achieved something much more valuable: autonomy. What does level 5 feel like? It feels like owning your mornings. If someone insults you at work, you can walk away. If you want to spend 3 months doing nothing but reading books or teaching your kid how to play guitar, you can do it. Money is no longer oxygen, and it's no longer a status symbol. It is a shield. It shields you from the whims of bad bosses, bad luck, and economic downturns. The psychological state of level 5 is deep contentment, mixed with a strange realization. You realize that the best things money ever bought you were the things it allowed you to say no to. Level 6, the architect, the centimillionaire. Then we step into the stratosphere. Level 6, the architect, having $50, $100, or $500 million. At this point, money as a concept breaks down completely. You can no longer spend your money on personal consumption. Even if you bought a new supercar every week, you wouldn't dent the interest your wealth generates. So, what does it feel like? It feels like playing a simulation game. At level 6, you stop buying products and you start buying systems. You buy companies. You fund political campaigns. You reshape neighborhoods. Your daily life is entirely insulated from the friction of reality. You never wait in a line. You never clear your own trash. You are surrounded by people whose entire job is to make your world seamless. But this level comes with a profound psychological cost: paranoia and isolation. When you have hundreds of millions of dollars, you lose the ability to know who your real friends are. Every person who approaches you has an angle, a charity, a business proposal, or a need. You begin to look at humanity through a glass wall. You have the power to change the world, but you lose the simple warmth of a normal, uncomplicated human connection. Level 7, the billionaire myth and the return to Iski Khan. Finally, level 7, the billionaire. This is the level of historical legacy. It is the level Steve Jobs reached. At this height, you don't just influence the world, you help write the script of human history. But let's pull back the curtain on what it actually feels like at the very top. When you have $1 billion, you realize a terrifying truth that human beings spend their whole lives denying. Money cannot cure the human condition. It cannot make your children love you more. It cannot erase your deepest insecurities. It cannot buy you a single extra minute of life when your body decides it's time to go. When Steve Jobs was dying of cancer, surrounded by billions of dollars of wealth and products that changed the entire planet, He didn't talk about his stock options. He thought about his youth. He thought about the simplicity of being hungry, of walking 7 miles in the rain, and the pure, unadulterated joy of a free plate of food. Because at the end of the day, whether you have $0 or $1 billion, the human experience is exactly the same. We are all just looking for a sense of safety, a sense of purpose, and a place where we feel like we finally belong. So ask yourself, which level are you chasing? And what are you willing to give up to get there? Thanks for watching. If this made you think, hit subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.